I took a little bit of a break. I took my first real break from comedy since starting it about like for like a month and a half, maybe 2 months.
You took a break for a month and a half? How long have you been doing comedy for?
About almost 7 years now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I started, I think, 2000. It's hard to tell because I didn't just like start and do it. I was slowly building it
I have a very
up.
similar trajectory in comedy. It's been very on and off.
It's an experience. But I took my first real break, and you know when you step away from something that you've been so obsessed with for so long, and then you come back to it and you have a different angle of it, I'm starting to realize like there's a grossness to open mics. Does that make sense? Do you know
it took you a month and a half of a break to realize that open mics are gross.
Yeah, well, because I've been so fixated. I've been using this analogy. Have you seen the movie Soul, Pixar?
No, I have not.
God damn it. It's a good analogy. Pixar's really good at analogies. But just this this need to be liked.
Yeah.
And we all have, as a human.
It's a huge problem of mine. In fact, like I completely relate already to what you're saying.
Yeah, but in open mics, it's turned up. There's something about like everyone's trying to get validation from everyone else who's trying to get validation from everyone else. So it becomes this whirlpool of just incestuous embarrassment.
Yeah, it's like a very desperate vibe.
Desperate.
Yeah,
yes.
it has a very so that I can definitely understand. So you think that the desperation has kind of turned up in like since or maybe you're
noticed
realizing it more.
Yeah, I noticed the desperation. I didn't notice it before, probably because I was very desperate.
Yeah, I mean that's honestly was a thing that I think people used to like not complain about me, but people would have like criticism about me. Is that I felt like they'd give me like a people pleaser kind of. Which I've spent a lot of time working on, but I think in the beginning, I was definitely all I cared about was like, I wanted people to like me. I guess that was sort of a reason why I even got into comedy was like, oh, wow, this is a great way for me to like have an identity and find myself and have friends and people tell me that I'm funny all the time. Like that was like kind of a draw to it. I think you kind of like grow out of that, hopefully, and mature. But, I'm sure I definitely still see that in a lot of ways, but I don't know. I kind of have like sympathy for people like that or empathy even because, you know that people come into a community like this from so many different like mental states or whatever, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's such a safe place for you to I guess, I'm trying to think of the right way to say it. Like, I always felt like I took a 3-year break from comedy too because I felt like it was very toxic in a way, but just because it was like all of the comedy always accepted me for who I was. So even if I wasn't, wasn't in the best state of mind or I was seeking validation or I did all the drugs and all the drinking, like I felt like all of those were completely accepted all the time and even encouraged, so I felt like I was able to like, live by my vices all the time, Yeah.
It was be careful the company you keep.
Yeah.
Did you start in Chicago?
No. Well, I do have a bit of a weird start into comedy. The first time I did comedy was when I was 13.
Jesus. Okay.
I know, it was ridiculous, and honestly, like, horrible things happened. But I did comedy when I was 13 in Rochester, New York. I took a comedy class, and my mom, because I was kind of a troubled kid, and my mom thought it was a really good way for me to like get a creative outlet. So, and I remember the first joke I ever told because I would perform to this comedy club, and they would sometimes put me on shows because I was like one of those like dumb novelty 13-year-old comics. But this was also like 2002 or something. Like this was a long ass time ago. So it was before like YouTube became crazy. But I remember the first joke I ever told on stage was. All these comedians are up here talking about sex, drugs, and cars, and I'm only 13. I don't know anything about cars. And looking back, I'm like, that was like fucked up.
But it had the. What's nice about that? It did have the structure, comedic structure. When you go to a mic, or a show or whatever, and you see someone go up and they don't understand like setup, punchline, how to call stuff back, how to tag a joke. Like there's something there that I could appreciate.
Yeah, it's true. But I think it was also like, oh, this is what drinking is like, and oh, this is I think that kind of like led me down an even worse path.
You said you were a troubled kid?
Yeah.
Were you stealing bikes or?
Yeah, definitely stole. But from like, I remember like I got caught stealing from Payless shoe stores once. Just
for fun, or was it?
I don't know. I guess so. I was just hanging around with a bunch of like dirtbag teenagers, and I remember we would just smoke a lot of weed, and I think I just I went through like, I don't know if we want to get this deep this quickly, but I went through a lot when I was a kid, and I had like a pretty troubled like family, so I definitely was the youngest, the only girl, and definitely the black sheep of the family for sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
I have trouble with writing this line, so you got to let me know. Writing the line of learning about a person and then poking way too hard into their backstories and shit. So we'll get to the darkness eventually.
We can. I'm just saying, like, I don't want, sometimes I can be really, like, I don't mean to overdo it, and I don't want to scare people, so I think that's sometimes my reservation, but I'm not, like, afraid of any questions you might ask or poke at.
Okay, because I'm very curious now. Like, you have really set up a mysterious backstory filled with drama and high stakes. So the only girl, youngest,
only girl.
Okay, that's an experience. Youngest, only girl. How many brothers do you have?
I have 3 older brothers.
Okay, and were they on the straight and narrow, or were they a little?
I mean, the first time I ever smoked weed and drank were with my brothers, so
that's probably the safest situation.
Yeah, it was, but they, I would say like they definitely had their issues, but I think because I was the only girl, I think I definitely got like the more like repercussions from it, like while they could be sort of like a little bit wild, my parents were more like, oh, like they're just being boys, but me, they were like, you're a fat slut.
God
and you need to go to, like I'm sure there was so many times where they like threatened to like put me in boarding school and stuff.
So like in a sexist way, like because usually the baby's the one that gets away with shit, but because you were the only girl, it kind of backfired.
I think so. Okay. I mean, I'm not like an expert into that kind of stuff, but the older I get, I'm like, that seemed a little unfair the way I was treated.
I feel you. And do your brothers do comedy, or do they?
No. So my oldest brother works on like the Navy yards, something married. He's married. The other one is a lacrosse coach at Flagler, which is cool for women's lacrosse, and the other one is like a finance guy.
So you are the degenerate.
Yeah. But I do make more money than all of them, actually.
As it should be. That's funny. Okay, interesting. So you started smoking weed pretty young, and then were you just like, was it an acting out thing, curiosity thing? What was going on in your head?
Definitely acting out, because I think when I was, because there's something I, like, the thing.
I'm just turning this on.
No, it's all good. Okay. I think everyone's problems stem from their parents. I just happen to have, like, a very unique set of crazy parents, in my opinion, so it's hard for me to even, like, get into, like, how crazy my dad was, but it's something that I'm starting to learn how to talk about. Where he is now, he lives in a van in Alaska and is like an absolute crazy person, like legitimately.
Okay.
I think I've later learned that it could be, I mean, I'm not a doctor or anything, but I'm like, what is his mental illness? Because it's definitely severe, whatever it is, and it's violent, and it's just out of outer space, So I'm like, is it maybe schizophrenia or something? I don't really know. But anyways, his sort of like mental illness caused my mom to be, I don't think she was abusive, but she definitely was like being abused a lot.
Right.
And I think that like that kind of, they couldn't help it. Like they did not have the tools to be able to like. Anyway, so I think because of that, I developed some serious issues early on. I was like bulimic by the time I was like 8 years old. Like
you were bullying or being bullied?
I was bulimic.
Oh, that's a totally different. Okay.
Bulimic. I was definitely getting bullied a lot in school. I had like, I was getting like fucked around with by kids. I had like, like some of the neighborhood kids. Like that's why it's like, I was very sexually active very early on at like 12. Some of it was consent, some of it was not. And so yeah, I definitely would say that it was like acting out because my parents are just so like, it was just such a chaotic household that I didn't feel like I had really, I don't know. It's hard. I'm not gonna like armchair psychology myself, but I have been in therapy a lot, and I think that's probably related.
That's fair. The man who is living in a van in Alaska. God, all right.
The man who took me. The other funny thing is sometimes I try to tell people about my dad, and it's like, they're like, well, was he abusive? I'm like, yeah, like he did like kind of like, he was violent with us a lot and like emotionally abusive, but he also did some crazy things that are kind of funny. Like when I was younger, he took me to see The Matrix in theaters 17 times.
Because he was just manic at the time and he just really loved the what?
I think he was just like obsessive about shit like that. You know, that's why I'm like, he's not like based in reality. So of course he took me to see a movie that's about questioning reality 17 times, you know? And I was like 10 years old, and it's like, what's the biggest influence on you as a kid? And I'm like, yeah, the fucking Matrix, you know?
Okay, my brain branched into so many questions. First,
sorry, did you imagine me to come in so hot and heavy?
No, it's perfect. Yo, you should when Chiron, when his episode comes out, I'll send it to you. He comes in hot.
Oh.
Do you know him that well?
I'm friendly with him. I love Chiron.
You need to listen to his episode. You actually would really enjoy his company.
Yeah.
He came in, so he was late. Yeah. And
okay, started off on the similar.
Most people for my podcast, I've accepted. Most people for my podcast are either late or they will not show up. I've had a guy who I want to say 4 days in a row was like, yeah, man, no, we'll do it tomorrow, and he just never responded, never showed up. But Chiron came in and was like, so I got kicked out of my house when I was when I was like 14 on Thanksgiving. My mom, I don't hate her, so I'm working on how my communication skills with my mom. My dad, he just went off, man.
Okay, phew, because like I could just go off and off on it.
By all means, and Jessica was on the. You seem to be friends with Jessica.
Oh, yep.
Oh, I've learned about Jessica.
Yeah, and honestly, she's one of the most fascinating people I've ever met in my life.
Very
and I respect the hell out of her because I'm like, yeah, because I want to be more accepting of the life that I've lived. You know, I don't want to like hide from that as much as maybe I used to pretend like that stuff wasn't like impactful or like, but it's like, you know, that kind of really makes up who I am, and I might as well embrace it because otherwise I don't want to be you know what I mean? Like not fraudulent, but like I don't want to
lie to yourself.
I want to own it. Yeah, I want to lie to myself. I want to own it. I want to like get on top of it because otherwise it's just going to control me, you know? I
feel that 100%. And I'm also crazy.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's been really bad. So when I that's the other thing I like about comics is they come from such unique backgrounds. Mm-hmm. You know who's another fascinating story? Izzy. Do you know Izzy?
Yeah.
Do you know her well?
No, not well, but I'm friendly with her.
Listen to her episode. Oh my God. There is a. Okay, I know I started off kind of negative about open mics and whatever, but the thing I learned in the positive area of moving out here was, by the way, sorry, there's nothing bad that I'm writing. When people see me write, they're like, what's going on here?
Like boring, lame.
But when I moved out here, a big part of what I was looking for was community. Yeah. I had a community in Riverside, where I'm from. But Riverside, California.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. From Southern California. Have you been to California at all?
I lived in LA for a few years.
Okay, so I was not in LA, as you know.
Yeah.
And you know, after quarantine happened, I just reevaluated what I needed to be around, who I needed to be around, my whole situation, and I realized like I needed to get away from where I was born. It was just what it is, what it was, and. Yeah. One of the things that I've loved out here, you've taken mushrooms, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I had a moment, my most recent mushroom trip. A lot happened that was really not fun, but the one thing that was really nice was it clicked to me like, oh, I've been building my own little family out here. That your family is your blood, and there is something to be said about that. but your dad's kind of not your family anymore. You know what I mean?
No, no, absolutely not. And I don't I don't hate him. I have every right to. His background is almost worse than mine is, And
He
so
grew up in the
like,
70s?
What's that?
Did he grow up in like the 70s, right?
He was born in 55, so.
Yeah, 67. Okay.
Yeah, so kind of, but like, I would love to tell you about his background because it is like blowing up until now. But I don't hate him, but I do not consider him family. I would, if I get married, he would not be invited. Any kind of milestone in my life, he will not be a part of. The fact that he lives in Alaska has given me the space to be able to heal from some of that. And now I can sort of look at him from a place of sort of kind of love in a way, even though he, every problem in my life basically I think stems from him. And he was in every sense of the word evil, but nobody's ever fully evil or not. And I truly do believe that, like nobody's one thing or the other. And so I just feel like he's a completely broken person.
That's very understanding of you.
Yeah.
Why did you move to Chicago?
I came here, the first time I moved here was right out of so I got into a relationship when I was 19 with a guy. And then I was in New York at the time, and he was in North Carolina. And then I wanted to go to college, but I wasn't a very good student, so the only college I could get into was Columbia College, Chicago. So
is Columbia a shitty college?
Oh, Columbia, yeah. I love it. It's so funny because people think Columbia when I tell them, and I don't finish the sentence. They think Columbia, the university, but Columbia College, Chicago is literally where degenerate kids whose parents will pay for it go to college. But no, I'm in so much debt, it's unbelievable. So I went to film school. Me and him moved here, and I was in a relationship with him for 7 or 8 years, and we almost got married, and then we broke up a week before our wedding day. And I was also, and at that time, a bunch of changes happened. This was 2015 when everything kind of turned upside down, because I'd been with this guy forever. He was a little older than me, 7 years older. So I was 19, he was 25 or 26. And I had throughout the relationship, I was really unhappy because I was still I think I was still probably in the most, when you have a revelation, whatever you acceptance of my own sort of mental illness, you know what I mean? I just feel like
you were on the cusp of understanding it.
Yeah, pre-clarity of where I'm at now. That was the worst of it, I would say, where I was just I don't know what's going on in the world. I had gotten to be 300 and something pounds. I was just very unhappy. I was in the relationship, and then I got weight loss surgery at that same time in 2015, and then we broke up a week before the wedding, and then I decided to just move. So I moved to that's also when I got back into comedy. And I moved to Austin for a year.
Austin, Texas
for a year. Then I moved to LA for a couple years, and then in 2018 I quit comedy again. And then
before you keep going, what were the reasons why you quit or stopped or took your breaks?
Well, initially was because when I was younger doing it on and off when I was a teenager, I don't feel like that really mattered. You know what I mean? I was just I wasn't funny, first of all, and so it just didn't. I just cared about partying. I think when I was younger, so it didn't really mean anything to me. I used to work I lived in Jacksonville, Florida, also for a brief time right after high school, and I worked at the Comedy Zone there as the door girl.
You've been all over the country.
Yeah, I have been kind of all over. I've had an interesting life, I think, for me. But so then I quit. But the reason why I quit comedy most recently is just because LA, I think, took a lot out of me. I hated the scene there. And you want to talk about desperation?
Mm-hmm.
That's like desperation times a million.
Mm-hmm. You can tell I want to say. I'm waiting to
No, please say. Let's talk about it.
Yo, look. Every time I say I'm from California, oh, Los Angeles, you're from LA. LA's first off, no, California's fucking huge. That's why I say California. That's why when people, if you're from Chicago and you leave, you don't say you're from Illinois. Yeah. Say you're from fucking Chicago, because that means something different. I was from the Illinois of California.
Right.
And so, but the times I did go to LA, there's a feeling that it's gross.
Gross.
It feels it's opportunistic and plastic and fake. disingenuine, other adjectives. It's so fucking gross.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
And, like, you know, you see some of the best comics in the world there. You do see that on some shows. But you also see the absolute dog shittiest, worst things you've ever... And you're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, and so you have that constant, like, you know, extremes, you know, and there's not, you know, and so anybody that's in the... It's just, like, a complete waste of time, you know, because it's, like... you know, like, I feel like if you get invited out there, fine, and, like, you're in that circle. But if you're trying to get better, you are not going to get better in L.A. Yeah. It takes so long to get everywhere. There's 150 people on a fucking mic. Half the time you have to pay for it, which is lame. I don't want to do that. And
there isn't a respect for the craft in the same way?
No, because they're all models. They want to be actors.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God. Thank you for understanding this and understanding me here. Because I was on a fucking bringer showcase show. I was swindled. I didn't understand how bringers worked.
Yep.
It was early on.
Was that at
It was at the Comedy Store.
The Comedy Store. Okay.
And I went there. I drove far. And I got there, and I remember the host. The host was like, "Okay, how many people are here to see you?" And I was like, "No, I drove very far." And he looked angry and disgusted with me. Like, how dare you?
And you think you're gonna grace our stage? Basically.
And so he was like, all right, go run the sound. And I said, okay. And I went and I did the sound, the whole thing. And then because I did sound competently enough and there was enough time, he was like, all right, you can go up, because it was last. And I watched everybody. And it was models and actors. Nothing wrong with if you want to be a model. Nothing wrong with being an actor. But that's not the same fucking thing as stand-up.
Yeah.
And then I got up there. This is not me saying I was good at the time, but I knew I was way fucking better than someone who's trying to be a model. And I get up there and I do comedy. And then he was like, oh, huh, interesting. And it just... I'm getting off my soapbox for a second. Chicago I love Chicago. I love this city because even if I go to a mic and I'm like, that person's not very good, you can tell they want to be.
Yeah.
And
they're nice.
And then
you know what I mean?
Much nicer.
You know,
much nicer.
And I feel like that there's that whole thing of like, there's like this insult, which I kind of relate to, where it's like, I feel like I'm not hot enough for LA and I'm not smart enough for New York. And so I feel like Chicago's perfect for me because I can just be like goofy, and like, I do feel like I'm fine on, you know, in shows, and I love comedy. It's something that I love, whether or not I'm performing or not. Like, being a part of this is important to me because I do feel like I have a respect for the craft, and I like to produce shows. Like, I would be happy doing that even if I never got to perform again. It's not really about the performance for me as much as I really do love comedy. I love writing. I love, you know.
This leads me to my next question.
Yeah.
What is your goal? Like, let's say in 5, how old are you?
33.
33. In 5 years, where do you think or want to be?
You know, it's funny because I was just talking about this with some people, and like I said, like, I've never been the best one on a lineup, and I've never been the worst one on a lineup, you know? And so for me, like, I feel, and I've accepted that, like, I'm funny in my way. The people that like me really like me. I don't believe that I'm ever going, I don't have the ambition to be famous, nor do I have I feel like the comedic, like, chops. Yeah. Like, I can do it, and maybe I'll get better, maybe not, but it's not something that's, like, I really care about that much. But I could see myself, and I run this new show that I've been putting on for the last few months called Red Devil, and that's meant more to me than anything I've ever done in comedy. And, like, that's because I, you know, built this community with this, like, tattoo community, because it's in the basement of this tattoo shop.
Nice. They
let us take over their basement. We built it from scratch.
Do you have any tattoos?
Yeah, I have 2. I've got a quail on my hip, and then I just got a devil on my thing. Nice. From the Red Devil place. So we built this comedy stage basically from scratch. So we, like, painted the walls, cleaned this basement, built the stage, did all of this stuff, and now I've been putting on this show, which has been, like, an amazing show, and every week it's just been like, and that's been more fulfilling to me than anything. So if I could, and I feel like I have a good ear for comedy, you know, so I feel like if I could, whether it's being like a producer, a podcast producer, or like a even like an agent or something. Like I think that if I had to choose a career in that field, I think that would be where my skill set would lend itself the best.
It sounds like you just like the arts and you like creating and expressing yourself.
Yeah, and I like creating a space that good art can happen. You know?
That's very admirable, I would say. Because
well, no, I mean it's selfish in a lot of ways.
I'm listening.
Because I like to be the one that's like in control, and I like to be the one that's like.
Do you like control more than you like attention? Is that what it is?
That's a good question. I don't really know. I guess I do like attention, but it's not. I get too much. Sometimes I get really bad anxiety going on stage, but I do like attention.
It's the way you
controlled attention.
Right. Well, the way you described it, the reason I call it admirable is that you wanted to make a space for other people to, like in my head, I'm like, I can give a fuck about, like I just want to go do stand up, but I pick up what you're saying.
I want to be respected for that. I want to be respected for creating a space that's like. That I'm not just letting anybody do it, that I'm not just letting my friends go up, that I really have like a higher level of like talent and like aesthetically, and vibe. Like I just want it to be a thing where everyone's like, that was the greatest show I've ever been to. I can't wait to come back. Like, had such a good time. Like, we have such a party environment. And then going out afterwards, everyone being like, man, you put on a great show. Like, I love that feeling. So I do like that.
Nice.
That's the selfish part about it for me.
Do you feel like you've built your family? How long have you been in Chicago? Like,
since I got back in 2019. But I've built like little families. I feel like every place I've lived. So. When I go back, I mean, my family now all lives in Jacksonville, even though I'm originally from upstate New York. My two brothers and my mom live there. But in Chicago, I've definitely built like a family here. Austin, I can go back anytime, and I have like my little crew of people there that I see every time I go back. And then same thing with LA. I have like, some of my best friends out there. And I love that, like I feel like I've spread myself out, and I feel very like, and then I feel like it's great that we can all stay like connected. I feel very blessed in that way.
That's also cool, man. That's also real cool.
What about you? Have you been in have you lived anywhere else besides California and Chicago? No.
This is when I meet people like you or like Izzy was another one who have traveled and lived other places. I'm a late bloomer.
Yeah.
How old are you? 31.
Okay.
Yeah. I had a friend do a.
What was that reaction? I'm sorry. What was the reaction to being 31?
It feels like, because when you talk about like moving all these like you had to. This has been the past all your 20s. You've been. All my 20s have been an hour and a half away from where I was born. And don't get me wrong, I've visited other places. I went to Ireland and shit, but like there's no feeling like moving where you don't know anybody.
Yeah.
That first winter here, the whole reason I started this podcast was I was so lonely. Oh. I just wanted friends. I knew that comics would talk to me if they had a microphone and it went out to somebody. Yeah. And through that, I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I came from such a traumatic place, racially more than sexism, obviously. Yeah. But such a volatile, toxic, horrifying place. Really bad, really bad. And so I came from such a place like that when I came out here, I was on like survival mode. Like I was everyone could have been an enemy to me.
Yeah.
And so when I started doing this podcast, he already knows this one. I'll use him as an example. Brian Rowe. Do you know Brian Rowe?
Yeah.
When I first met him or saw him around, I was like, that guy seems mean.
I thought that too.
I thought he was really mean.
I was like, this chin up in the air, mother. I don't care if he hears this because like I think he's cool. But man, I was like, who is this guy? But then of course you meet him and he's like the sweetest guy on the planet.
His episode, I learned about his hopes and fears. I learned about his deepest, darkest fears on the episode, and I learned that while I how do I put this? I was gaslit so much that my perception of what's real and what isn't is really fucked. And so is my memory. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if you have this.
It might be like on different terms, but that happened to me a lot.
Yeah. You're told that you're saying like things are happening to me and everyone's like, oh, you're being ridiculous.
Yes.
Yeah.
And and that absolutely. And that's why I feel like I have like basically a personality disorder now, because I don't, and that's really what that is like you have a lack of identity, which I do. I have no idea like sometimes who I am, and it's like really scary sometimes when you just you don't know what's reality and what's not.
It's really hard to describe.
And your brain trying to fix that is crazy, because you think about something one way and then you slowly, for like an entire year, I was in therapy 3 times a week. And one of them was like regular therapy. One of them was like a behavior change kind of therapy. And the other one was like trauma exposure therapy, which is like bananas. Have you ever heard of that before?
No, but I want to hear about it.
And I know I was very like, and I do feel like, therapy, a lot of people have different opinions of it, and I totally understand that, and it is something that not everybody gets to do. I just, at the time, I was at the end of my rope, essentially, so it was like, I'm either going to do something or, but the trauma exposure is basically where you take the most traumatic thing that's ever happened to you, and I have a lot of PTSD from, like, several different things, and, like, sexual trauma, and, like, just like violence, sex, things like that from when I was a kid. And so you take the most horrifying things that have ever happened to you, and you basically you say the story, and you walk through every detail of it over and over and over again. And so you repeat the story multiple times, and then the therapist is recording you saying it over and over again. And then you have to then listen to yourself say it while you're not in therapy, and then you go back and you have to do it again, and each time you're recording how what's happening to you as you're saying it, and eventually it does reframe. It did work for me in some of the cases. It reframed my thought process of what actually happened to me. Blaming myself kind of thing was a huge problem for me. I have a huge guilt complex, and I think it really did help.
I'm glad that it helped. That sounds horrifying.
It is. It was, It's like, having to talk about being molested over and over again. You're like, God damn.
Yeah, that's a lot. I think that's the other thing. I think I had a bit of a woe is me thing going on.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. And then in doing the podcast, I learned about other people's woes in a way that I just... How do I put it? There's a type of person that will stay a townie forever. There's a type of mentality. There's a type of person who is fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. This isn't me I sound like a condescending person.
No, you don't. I feel this. I already know what I feel like I know what you're, not that I know what you're going to say, but I can already feel.
And then there's the type of person who pursues their dreams in a big city. And that type of person has gone through they had to have gone through things to get them to this place, and just getting to know these people out here has been so important. And learning what is, I was talking with Chiron about this, that by leaving the place I was from, now I can see what was my environment that was fucking me up, and I can also see what is just my fault.
Yeah.
And out here, environmental stuff happened where I was like, oh, okay, that's not my fault.
Yeah.
This racist thing happening to me is not my fault. Mm-hmm. And then this decision I made is 100% my fault. And I'm thinking about a very specific decision that I don't want to talk about. But
I've made horrible decisions, by the way. So I can relate to you on that. And taking responsibility for that is a very difficult thing to do, especially when you've been victimized in multiple ways. And I know that, and it sounds like you've been victimized in very serious ways.
Been pretty bad.
Yeah. So, and woe with me is fair, but it's, I think that
you're not going to get better in
maturity
woes,
when you kind of like, okay, well, what can I do to what do I have responsibility over, in my own life to be able to,
Yeah.
and a lot of times there isn't, but sometimes there is, and I don't know. Life is not figuring that out, I guess.
It's life, man. And that break taught me to chill. Taught me how to be a person. My whole identity was wrapped up in being a stand-up comic. Mm-hmm. It was like if I do stand-up comedy when I go on stage and I do. And when I took that break and I got to just be me, whatever that is, I realized how needlessly competitive I was being with people.
Would you say that you were competitive both in comedy and in life trauma?
That's a good question. Yeah. I never thought about that. Yeah, like when I hear your trauma, I in the past, this is
having the urge to be like, well,
yeah. You know what happened to me?
Happens to me all the time.
Yeah,
it still happens once in a while.
Yeah, it feels like you're playing a game of poker with bullshit that's happened to you.
Yeah. Well, here's my molestation card.
I know, right?
And you're like, well, here's my race card.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. Yes.
So you said that you became like a real person, like when you took that break and you totally like abandoned that part that you considered your basically sole identity. What did you do with yourself?
One, I would not say completely abandoned.
Oh, okay. Well, you mean you took a break from it?
I did take a break. It was my first time quarantine. I had to take a break.
Right.
And that helped.
Yeah.
I would not be, this is going to sound weird, but I am so happy COVID happened. Mm-hmm. Because,
me too.
Yeah, I'm sure. Oh,
changed the whole life.
Yeah, everything. Like, I would not be here right now if it wasn't for COVID and quarantine. And quarantine forced me to sit down, and it forced me to learn a lot. Mm-hmm. And then when it started opening up again, I went back on the move. And then this past time was the first time. Don't get me wrong, it was life pressure of not about to be unemployed, moving into a new apartment, the whole thing. But it was the first time I decided, because I could have kept going to Mike's, but I decided, like, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to exist. And what I do with that, I tried to have fun. Yeah. For fun's sake.
What's fun like for you? So I'm turning this on you now.
No, you're good. I went to the movies, and I didn't think about, well, what bit can I write if I do such and such thing. I walked. There was a moment, I remember, and that's my little journal. I can actually probably look through it and find a moment. But there was a moment when I was like, I'm in one of the greatest cities in the world, and I'm not I'm not taking it. Look, there's a fucking skyline, and I'm on a train, and there's homeless people that I walk by and I ignore, and there's so much life I'm not doing. I went to see musicians. I went to just see local musicians because I love music, play bass.
Okay, so you have other talents. It wasn't like that's your only thing.
Yeah, I make music. I'm working.
That's really cool. See, I feel like I lack like other. Well, I mean, I love seeing live music and I love consuming things. I don't really have any other like interests that really I'm actually actively participating in.
Have you tried? Okay, how about this? What is a art form? Because it seems like art is. I don't think you want to get into engineering at this point.
Well, I mean, I work in software.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm horrible at it, but I'm basically a project manager for software companies.
Well, what is an art form that seems like it'd be really cool to do if tomorrow you were a master at it?
Documentary film.
Okay, so mine was learning how to draw, and now I'm working on.
Ooh.
I'm working on it.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Neat.
So when I go to Mike's, like I'll coop up in the corner to the best of my ability, and I'll be like, okay, don't talk to me. I need to work on how eyes are shaped or whatever. And it's helped a lot. It's like I'm doing stand up. I'm still have a goal. There's still a competitive nature in me, and it's like I need to make a living off of this. And I love it, but I need to make a living off of this. when I'm drawing or when I'm taking these pictures or whatever, it's art for art's sake.
Yeah.
So maybe make a documentary.
Yeah, I mean that is something that I've loved, and I have made them before. I mean that's kind of what I went to school for. It's just another one of those things where I would just do it for the fun of it, and I have so many ideas of ones that I've wanted to make. You know, sometimes I feel very like bogged down by like my like addictions and vices still. You know, to where I'll spend 11 hours a day just looking at my phone, and then I'll go at night and just drink or do drugs or whatever, and then I'm like, man, I just wasted all this time, you know.
If you want, I like projects with people. So if you want, I can bother you.
Yeah.
I can be like, hey, don't do drugs right now. Go work on your documentary.
Yeah, get off the ketamine, Court.
What does ketamine feel like?
Oh man, it's cool. I just recently tried it like not that long ago, and man, what a wild time.
I fucking knew it. I was outside Laugh Factory with him, and he was like, "Fucking all right, I love you."
Yeah, it did work. Him and a few others, and we had a really great time. But yeah, the first time I did it, it was with a bunch of them. We walked like the 606 for like a bunch of hours one night. It was like the best time ever. But since then, I've done it, in those times I didn't really feel it that much. I felt cool and it felt interesting, but I was with people that I loved. The one time though that I felt like I didn't have the best experience was about a week ago. I did it, and I did more than the
recommended dose.
But I think maybe a little bit more, and then I was like, I'll be fine. I did like a bunch of it one night, so it's not going to affect me, but it really did. And I remember like I completely detached from. I felt like it's like a dissociative drug.
Okay.
So you feel detached from reality in a way. So you're like, you're trying to text, but it doesn't feel like your fingers are touching your phone, and you're like, everything just feels like spatially really weird. And you kind of like, you're walking around and you're just like, and time doesn't feel like it's moving in a way that you normally understand how time works.
It's like a hallucinogen, right?
No, you don't hallucinate at all. You just become, it's like you're in like this weird bubble where the world just seems like you're slightly detached from it.
Interesting.
I don't know how else to say it.
That's fine.
But yeah, so I got into what you would consider kind of a K-hole, they say. So like I was just sitting, I was trying to like, I was with people, or people were inside, and I had to step outside and just kind of was like, I don't really know what's going on, so I just had to like sit down, and so for like 30 minutes, I really couldn't do anything, but I didn't feel bad, like, and I wasn't really scared, because I knew that it was gonna eventually like wear off, so I didn't like trip out or anything, but I knew, I was like, God damn it, like I cannot, like, I wouldn't be able to, if somebody came up and talked to me, I wouldn't be able to like get my words out, and I couldn't really like,
That can be concerning. Oh, okay. Let's get away from the K-hole then. The documentary. What are your ideas? What's an idea that's feasible to make?
Yeah, and I hope I didn't like trip you out about the ketamine thing.
No, not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I'm trying to work. Okay, a little bit about me. I'm working on not going down negative rabbit holes. Obviously, you're gonna talk about whatever, but to me, what is more productive would be talking about your artistic goals.
Yeah.
What if
So the kind of documentaries that I love, I feel like are ones that are about people, like, like the one that I wanted to make a long time ago, but I never got around to it, was there was like this group of, Ohio, they call them Neo-Vics, so Northeastern Ohio Vikings.
Okay.
And what it was just these group of crazy white people in Northeastern Ohio that bought these acres of land and like pretended, or they did like live action role play. So they essentially built this like old Viking village, which is so silly and kind of dorky to me, but I thought it was kind of hilarious that they like built this whole to like replicate what a Viking life was like.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy that ran it was like obviously a man who had been bullied a lot, when he was younger. And he like, but it's kind of cute how he's now like this leader of this like Viking village, and he's like the king. There's like this thing's called like Volksguard or something.
And they live here.
They live in Ohio.
Okay.
And I just heard about these people, and so I just did like all this research, and they have all these like YouTube videos of them doing like these fake fighting with these real weapons that they've created. They built a fjord boat to put on the Ohio River or whatever, and I'm like, man, people putting this amount of time into something that really. There's no way they're making money off of it. There's no way they're like getting pussy off of it.
Oh, is it all dudes? There's not one.
There's no way they're getting that much out of it besides like fulfilling this like fun fantasy.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted to like make a documentary about that and sort of like kind of see where it goes. I think the best part about a documentary is you can have a topic, but you never really know what direction you're going to go in. So the only way you're going to be able to make that movie is by continuously filming and just trying to get deeper and getting to know somebody more and just being in that environment. And then it's not until the editing that you can be like, oh, what kind of beautiful story can I craft out of this?
Mm-hmm.
What meaning can I draw from all this footage and time that I've spent with these people, really getting to know them and seeing it. So, I feel like for me, that's the exciting part about it is that you start off with something. And so like my biases right now, me telling you that this guy's dorky, this guy's this, who knows, by the end of it, I could be like, wow, this is actually the most amazing thing. And then I end up becoming a Viking. Who knows? You know what I mean?
The one girl.
Yeah, exactly.
The queen of the Vikings.
So that kind of stuff, about people. I like, there's a few others that I love that are kind of similar.
Have you seen A Fistful of Quarters, King of Kong?
Yeah, definitely. Love that kind of. See, I love. That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Okay.
You
should do that.
I know I should.
What honest and I stop me if I'm being pushy because that's another thing I'm working on.
But this is another thing where I want to create some because I know I could make that funny. I'm not the one being funny.
Yeah.
But I want to create the environment where funny, interesting, artistic things happen.
Dude, what is stopping you from making other than ketamine? What is stopping you?
No, I promise I'm
joking.
not a ketamine addict. I literally did it for a week, and I just had one bad trip.
I'm just joking. But really, what other than procrastination? What is stopping you? We have all this technology and editing.
I know, and I could really just do it on my phone. I literally
you really could.
So it's not I could say oh, I don't have the equipment. I guess I don't really have editing software right now. And I could say oh, it's because I'm, I work all the time and I'm really busy, but that's really not the case. It's really just me.
Just procrastinating.
Yeah.
Is it at all a fear of failure? Like you're going to start it and then it's not going to come out right?
Kinda, yeah. Or I do sometimes feel and this is with jobs too, and I think this is also just a habit that I don't. I do get worried that I'm not going to see something through. With jobs that I've had, it's hard for me to keep a job for more than a year because I just get really bored and then just give up on it. A lot of projects that I've tried to start, a lot of books I've tried to read, I don't finish.
Mm-hmm.
And that would be disappointing for me to start something else and then not to finish it.
Well, okay, here's a thing I'm working on about myself.
Yeah.
I will so I'm actually the opposite in terms of being driven. I get stubborn.
Yeah.
So I get this tunnel vision and I'm like, oh, this is what I have to do now. And then nothing else matters. And then everything else falls to the wayside except for that one thing, which is also unhealthy. And I need to work on that.
I need some of that though. Cause I feel like besides this one show that I'm working on, I have my toes dipped in a million different things, but none of it's good.
So balance, yin yang, as they say. And one of the issues I have is I'll project my desire and focus onto other people, and I'll start. If you talk to anyone from Riverside, any comic from Riverside, they'll be like, "Yeah, Aaron does that." Where I will tell other people what to do as if it's me. Like I'm trying to coach myself, but at them.
Yeah.
And it's out of love. And
that's what I need though. I swear I am not, I have ideas and there's things that I want to do, but I am in no way, nor have I ever considered myself to be a leader because I have a really, really hard time making decisions. And so, and I'm so motivated by other people. So even right now, I'm like, man, maybe I should fucking do that, you know?
Okay. I will make a deal with you.
Okay.
Because I'll do like I'll get irritating about it. If periodically, maybe like once a month I'll be like, "Hey Courtney, are you I don't know why it needs to be Kermit. Are you working on your project or just checking in on him, man?" Or whatever it is. Like,
well, I need to find a new subject now because I think that the Northeastern Ohio Vikings
it's a little difficult.
that has passed.
Jessica.
Yeah, I could do Jessica. She's
Yeah.
fascinating.
Comics, I think a comic is a good example of one. Not to
I
say
don't do anything I'm too close with. I remember one time I made a documentary called Doggone, which is like a very dumb name considering it's about my aunt's dog who got lost. I called it Doggone.
Okay.
It was like not a little insensitive, but I was like, this is a pretty good name.
Yeah.
But but with that one, I think the problem was, basically my aunt lost her dog in Florida, but she had lived in Arizona at the time, which is like really, really sad. Like it was a whole thing where like my grandfather like accidentally opened the door, let it out, and there's gators all over there. But anyways, like she went on the craziest journey to try to find this dog that I had ever heard of. Like she was hiring search parties, at the whatever, like these like dumb southern grocery stores at the Publix. They would meet up at the Publix. Like these like little Florida ladies would get together and create a search party. She posted all over online, and then people would respond with like fake messages. We also like throughout the documentary, we like went to the neighborhood where the dog was lost. We literally would just like knock on doors and ask people if they had seen this dog. It had already been like almost a year since the dog had been lost. And eventually through this, our theory is that there's this neighbor that lives in the neighborhood that has all these dogs. We think that this lady stole the dog is what we think happened. But we found this out anyways, but it became a little bit too real. And we went to this one lady's house who had like rescued a bunch of animals, and like she was like really crazy. She had like 19 chinchillas in her bedroom, and we would have never known that somebody lives like this until we had started like doing this documentary. Right. But like we were like fascinated. We're like, holy, there's all these crazy people out here. But I think the problem is that because it was my aunt, I think I tried to make part of it was funny, but she was also like, Courtney, like this is pretty heartbreaking for me. So I feel like I got to be careful when I pick the next subject, not to do something that's too close to me, because I don't want to hurt anybody in the process.
I think number one, that's a very smart and mature decision. Number two, have you seen American Vandal?
No. What's that?
I don't want to spoil anything.
Okay.
In fact, do you have Netflix?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay.
Please. There's only 2 seasons.
Okay.
Please.
Is it all about the same thing, or is it different?
It's all about the same thing.
Okay.
Please.
Okay, I'll watch it.
I won't tell you anything about it. I will check in on you for that too.
Okay. I will watch that.
Okay. But yeah, I think it would. Is that okay? Is it okay if I bother you every now and
Please,
again?
yeah, go ahead. I love that actually.
I'll do it in my Kermit voice.
But yeah, so maybe I'll just keep an eye out for a new subject. I think, stand up. I don't know if that's something it'd be cool if I could just do something like if I could find either a person or some kind of like weird corner of Chicago that really is sort of like that that has it. So I need to just like put myself out there more and start going to places that I normally wouldn't go to, or going to events of things that maybe don't normally align with my interests, just to kind of see. My friend and I used to do that. We would go on meetup.com and find the most random things we could find and just go to these events. But sometimes they would be wild, they'd be like weird, like, like religious study groups, but somehow there would also be massages, and you're like, what the hell?
Yeah, I think I'm excited. I really hope that you follow through on this documentary stuff. Yeah. Because I think your thirst for interesting people would do you well with documentary.
Yeah. I've always loved making like little videos. So maybe I will.
Well, this is about an hour, and I usually do it about an hour.
Really already? Oh man.
I'm sorry. We can keep talking if you want. I'm going to. Are you going to any mics tonight?
What day is it today?
Today is the Wednesday.
What mics are today?
I'm going to the Cabin, and then.
How's the Cabin?
It's a newer one. It's only been out like 4 or 5 weeks.
Where is it at?
It's really close. It's couple blocks.
Who runs that?
Peoples whose names I should know, but I don't. By the way, I told you I have a memory issue.
Yeah.
I won't there will be details in this conversation I won't remember. It's if you bring them up and I'm like, I'm sorry.
Okay. No, don't worry about it.
And then
I have a crazy memory.
Perfect.
By the way.
Yin yang, man.
Yin yang. Yeah.
And then the other one I double up on Wednesday and then I go to Kedzie Inn.
Okay.
And so I'm trying to.
I've never done Kedzie Inn. I love Greg too, and I've just never done that one.
He's a very funny man.
Yeah.
That's why I'm trying to work out new material and all that. So you're welcome to join me if you want.
Yeah, I do have to stop home, so I might meet up later. I'm trying to think what other. I don't even know I know last night I went to Lottie's, and tonight, gotta figure it out. But
okay,
yeah, I'll probably hit up a mic or two.
Then I will hopefully see you tonight. If not, I will bother you to do your your documentary. And there was something else I was supposed to bother you.
This has been an absolute pleasure, by the way.
Oh,
what
good.
a fun. You're a great interviewer. This is fun. I'm
Thank
glad we got
you.
to get to know each other. Because I feel like I've seen you around, and I've been like, oh, I really like this guy.
I
exist.
exist.
So I'm glad that we we have this chance. Because
yeah, I don't do well in large group. Like getting to know me in a large group, it just doesn't bode well for me.
Yeah.
I usually say the wrong thing, and I end up upsetting people. But I'm glad I got to know you as well. Yeah. And I guess we'll take my creepy Polaroid picture.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, let's do it.
Okay.